listening to the Dr. Nina Show with Dr. Nina Savell-Rocklin, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hi there. Welcome to the Dr. Nina Show, Outsmart Emotional Eating. I'm your host, Dr. Nina Savell-Rocklin, psychoanalyst specializing in eating disorders, and I know firsthand what it is like to struggle. I found the cure to binge eating, and now I help people all over the world find food freedom. On this show, I am here to help you too. Imagine waking up and thinking about your day, not your diet. That is the goal. And today, we're going to talk about transformation. We're going to talk about embracing transformation with my amazing guest, Ryan Holtz. So first, let me ask you, when you think about transformation, what do you think of? A different body, a different mindset, maybe a different life? Well, today, Ryan is going to share the power of managing our mindset to create the life of our dreams. Let me tell you a little bit about Ryan. He is a life builder. I love that expression. Life builder with a very successful track record. Not only does he own a successful creative media agency, voted the #1 Black-owned marketing company in 2021. He is also the host and executive producer of the top 1% globally ranked Ryan Holtz Show, which won the best Black hosted podcast in Canada, focusing on health, society and culture, and inspirational entrepreneurship. So Ryan helps other people upgrade their personal and professional life by provoking thought. And as he puts it, encouraging deposits into their soulful currency account. So today he's here to inspire you to do the same. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Nina. You're incredible. That's a really nice intro. It's my absolute plum-filled pleasure to be on your show today.
Plum-filled might be my new favorite expression. It's so evocative. So I'm just plum-filled, delighted to have you here.
You know what? I heard this expression years ago, and I just thought, you know what? Somebody came up to me and I said, I don't care what mood somebody's in their day. If you ask somebody, how are you? And somebody says, I'm having a plum-filled day, like it's just going to put a little smile on your face. And I just think there's a little bit of remarkability and memorability around that word.
Yeah, you have to smile at Plumfield. And by the way, Barb is on Instagram saying hi.
Hi, Barb.
Transforming means the transformation of our mindset in a nutshell. Okay, so let's just dive into you, because you had some early traumas that might have crushed others, I think.
Yes. Yes.
But instead, you ended up thriving.
Yes.
So can you share your story of personal triumph?
Yeah, I mean, I want to kind of preface it with the fact that people who have had trauma or going through trauma, or maybe have trauma in their path that they're not even aware of, because life brings all kinds of, interruptions. We'll call it interruptions. I want people to understand that if you can manage to take that pain and sorrow and turn it into something amazing, it literally will become rocket fuel for your success. I love people that have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. I call myself a grieving mama's boy. I'm proud of that. I was raised by a single mom. My mom passed away when I was 13 years old. I didn't have no trust fund, no inheritance. It was complete and utter hell. And back then I would never tell you that, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Like, I love it. I know down the road I'm going to be, no. It was hell on earth. But fast forward into adulthood, I managed to take that terrible experience, and, it's kind of that saying, it was a mess and it turned into my message. And I think a lot of people, they really, I don't know, they kind of get a little shameful about their trauma. And for me, I kind of said, I want to have massive impact on the world. And I cannot be shameful of my hardship. And if anything, it's probably, I call it receipts, where somebody should say, why should I listen to this person? Why is this person's advice credible? What's their track record? Well, my track record is I've been through hell and back, and I managed to build an amazing life from that and still continue to pull that rocket fuel into my daily life now. And people who are listening, we're all going through our small traumas. And instead of hiding that, I think you need to really bring that into the forefront. And I think you'll see some interesting things happen in your life.
Absolutely. and I can relate, having been through, decades of eating disorder hell, and it's because of that, and what I learned from that, just like what you learned from the loss of your mother and everything you went through.
Mhm.
Um, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? It's a trite phrase, but if you're lucky, it makes you stronger, and if you're even luckier, it helps you inspire other people, and that's exactly what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I should also say, and I forgot this part, if anyone would like to call in and talk with Ryan about transformation, the
Mm.
number is 323-203-0815, 323-203-0815. And you can also, if you're watching this on live stream, you can drop a comment, and we'll get to that when we see it. Okay, so when you think of transformation,
Mm.
what do you think of?
I think of taking something that is, you know, almost feeble or broken or shattered or just almost, not fully, and managing to take that, kind of suck out the juice. I talk a lot about dilapidated grapes because I feel like people walk around in society and you're almost like, are you awake? Are you living? Like, people are on such autopilot. And I'm like, where's the vibe at? So if we take a dilapidated grape and we say, well, how can we make that grape look nice, full, voluptuous, juicy, shiny? Well, we got to take that grape and put it in some good soil and put some water on it. And slowly, day by day, you will start to see small incremental gains that as a whole transform into something magical that we never really could think of. So my ideal, just layman's terms, definition of transformation is taking something that was and making it better as is, right?
Well, you got dilapidated grapes and a plum-filled day. There's a theme here, Ryan,
There is a theme. There is definitely a theme.
and it's food related. Oh my gosh, how pertinent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. So, when we feel dispirited and kind of dehydrated by life, and all the
Mm.
life is sucked out of us, we are emotionally dehydrated. And so, how do we fill ourselves and become the plum? I know, grape, or a grape.
Well, I think the first step is we take a pen and we take a piece of paper and we draw a line and we say, okay, for 7 days straight, and this is very actionable. It's kind of a little exercise that anybody can do, but take a piece of paper and preferably not a notes app on your phone. Like, let's disconnect from that a little bit because we don't want the distractions from the phone. Just a piece of paper. And if we're starting on a Monday or your Sunday, if you want to start on a Sunday, you say, I'm going to take for 7 days. I'm going to put a line down the paper. I'm going to put Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And each day I'm going to write what made me feel great in the day and what made me feel terrible. And I'm talking whether it's you had a conversation with your mom or dad and you walked away feeling like complete crap, or maybe you felt inspired and great. Uh, at work, you had a conversation with a coworker or a boss or a mentor, and it made you feel good or bad. Taking inventory on what you're surrounding yourself with and how that's making you feel is ultimately the first step. And I call that it's the personal audit. We audit, financially, we audit health wise, we audit, our kids, we audit everything. And we need to start auditing ourselves more. And I think that's the first step, is just to say, well, if I'm walking around saying I feel a certain way, why is that? And you're going to kind of unpack into your subconscious a little bit. And that is the first step. And I'll kind of leave it there because I know you got more questions about it. But let's start with just a self audit to see where we're at and what is making us feel the way we're feeling.
That is so important, because so often we create a narrative about ourselves, and then we filter out everything, or our lives, and we filter out
Mm-hmm.
everything that doesn't fit the narrative, and we focus on what fits the narrative. So if we have a narrative of, oh, things just don't go well for me, every time something doesn't go well, you say, see? But every
Yeah.
time something goes well, we're like, no, whatever, that doesn't count. And we disqualify it in some way. So
Yes.
being able to see both the things that make you feel good and the things that make you feel bad changes the filter, because you see both are there.
Yes. And I mean, you know this. I mean, as a psychoanalyst, our minds primarily are wired to really go to that negative side, and that's why when people say, hey, we're choosing happiness or we're choosing positivity, you're damn right. And I mean, I want to curate a life that is fully designed for me. And people, the number one thing you come back to, right? And on the coaching side of my business, where I coach individuals, it always comes back to the same thing as the root cause. Usually it's not my house isn't big enough, or geez, I got my new Jimmy Choo shoes and it's giving me some bunions. It's not these superficial things. And yes, I use feet a lot as paraphrasing. I mean, my business card's a sock. Anybody that knows me knows that. But I say that because it invokes a little humor into it. And I want a little humor when I'm talking to people about this subject, because I want them to feel a little bit more comfortable, because a lot of people feel a sense of discomfort when we start talking about, why are they feeling so bad? And so the one thing it always comes back to is the people they surround themselves in their life, or past traumas. My dad constantly belittled me, or my mom just said I wasn't good enough, or my sister was constantly competing with me, or to this day, those things are happening. And I tell people all the time, you have to be ruthless in protection of your happiness, right? You have to be completely callous about protecting your happiness. For me in my life, I don't have one single toxic person in my life. If it even remotely starts getting to that toxicity, you're gone. You're fired. It's immediate, because I have such a respect for time and life in general, because for me, it's the biggest blessing you can ever get. We can make as much money as we want. We can invest that money, make more money, but we'll never get more time. And so I feel like when we just kind of isolate and take everything away and just get back down to humanity, which is we are blessed with time, then you start really looking at everything in your life and seeing, okay, does this actually matter? What actually matters? And I think we have to ask ourselves that question. What truly actually matters in our life right now?
That's so wise. And I actually really like your foot analogies, because what at the bottom of our feet are our souls,
Yep.
SOLE, but
Yep.
you're talking about our souls, SOUL. And that is everything. And what is, how do we treat ourselves, getting rid of toxic people and getting rid of the internal toxicity, and making sure we're not one of those toxic people to ourselves.
Dr. Nina, listen, how much we look around society, we all try to look good on the outside. The book cover looks great, which is our body and the way we want to show up to people. And a lot of people are dying on the inside. And so I like to use the foot analogy, because I used to manage a shoe store back in the day. And when I talk at schools, I tell this funny, story. And I used to say, it was crazy to me how people would come in wanting these beautiful shoes, and they couldn't even go take $30 and get like a pedicure. And so I'm like, you're putting grenades into this shoe. And it's like, is that the way you're living your life? Where we want to be good from the inside out. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Absolutely. Because it doesn't matter the facade, the face that we show to the world. If we're hiding our inner self, and we don't accept, I like self-acceptance rather than self-love, because self-acceptance means there are parts of yourself you love and parts you don't love, but you accept the whole thing. One of the things that I do in one of my coaching programs, group coaching programs, is I tell people, draw the face that you show the world.
Ooh,
and
like
then
that.
draw the face that you hide.
Yes.
And it's so interesting to see the difference.
And what's the feedback you get from it? Like, what do you primarily see on that?
Well, I usually get the show the world a happy,
Yeah.
looking good, happy, all's well with the world, pretending everything's fine, and the hair is all done nicely, and the makeup and the picture, and then the face that people hide is like just like sad or
Yes.
angry or just frazzled, or all the things that we think we can't show people. So do you think that part of transformation is actually just coming to terms with the parts we hide, and transforming our sense of we need to hide those things and let other people see the real us?
The magic is in your authenticity, right? And that's why, one of the slogans we love a lot, and we have merchandise on this, is you are 101. And it's the moment you start becoming one of 8 billion people, or 10 million thousand of like whatever, you've completely lost your originality. And that's why that saying, you're born an original, don't die a copy, I think is a great saying that people should kind of put as an affirmation, because the only superpower you have in the world of really showing up and doing really amazing work and different, making a difference, is just being yourself, because your perspective is different, your lens is different. People often walk around all the time and it's amazing how not incredible they think they are. Like, hey, people say this to themselves all the time. Who am I to give my opinion on that? I'm like, what do you mean, who are you? Who are you not? Like, you are an incredible person. I want to hear your perspective on subject X. And so doubling down on just being cool with yourself is everything. And that's why I say the first step in transformation, whatever that is, even on a professional setting in terms of a company, is you can't make changes until you know where you are. And that's where that self-audit always is going to come back, because we can go to the gym, we can buy new shoes, we can fill up our life with all kinds of junk that we don't need. But ultimately, that looks good on the outside, but you got to go to bed at night with yourself. And I'm telling you, if the foundation's not stable, water gets through cracks.
Well put. Yes. And figuring out why you're not okay with yourself is so important. So, okay. So once people do this audit and they start noticing, oh, actually, there are more good moments in my life than I realized.
Yep.
Then what? What's the next step?
Well, I think now you have a little bit of information on yourself. And so you say, okay, well, here's where I'm at. And then we got to look at that sheet again and say, all right, now we have this information. Let's act on some of it. So let's go to the good and say, okay, what's making us feel good? Well, let's pour a little bit more time and investment into that right off the hop. Because if that's already making us feel good, if that's already getting us to the, a certain energy, a certain kind of self-acceptance, well, let's double down on that a little bit. But here's where the complication starts to happen. When you start pouring a little on the good, well, you got that best friend that's always been dragging you down that says, oh my gosh, Dr. Nina, how come we don't talk as much? How come we don't go out for that lunch every Thursday? How come we don't, I feel things have changed amongst us. And what you're going to reply to her with is, sorry, honey, I'm just kind of growing a little bit. And I'm in growth mode a little bit. And so my energy and my time is going to have to be curated. And let's think about it as a DJ. DJs get paid, great DJs can make millions and millions of dollars for just putting remixes on other people's original music. And so let's think about our time as music and the DJ and how we're spending our time. And so it's a juggling act, because you got a couple records going, work, family, responsibilities, and you're kind of remixing that into, okay, I got to have some personal optimization, personal development time. So we're going to put some time there. So this is where the confidence and kind of that ferociousness to seek happiness has to be front and center, because when your friend calls you up and says, I think you've changed a bit, you have to kind of go back to that friend and say, well, I would love to extend an invitation to you to grow with me, but mama, I'm going either way, and so I'd love for you to be there, but if you're not, I understand, but this is my life and I have to take control over that. And I think there's a lot of people out there that, I think they actually undermine how much control they really do have over their life. And that's where we kind of say, like, even our show, right? We have celebrities and thought leaders on all the time. And it's only in the quest of really understanding and trying to help our listeners achieve the one thing that matters, is how do we live our full selves on purpose? And so when you do things on purpose, it's kind of a way of designing your life. And so you really have to become the architect of your own life, saying, yes, we're going to have certain space of life just happening, which is unforeseen circumstances, but for the majority, we do get to control where we want the windows and where we want the doors, and better yet, who we want coming in to those windows and doors.
You're making me think of an expression that I think is so brilliant. And it's very true of, I don't want to make a gender generalization, but it's a lot of women who are kind of taught to give up themselves to take care of others. And the expression is, don't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. And we have to learn that taking care of ourselves is not selfish, right?
Yes.
It's self-care.
Yeah, and you know what? And I know you have a big female audience, and when you and I talked, this is one of the things I said, hey, I really want to come on and give some value. A lot of the people that I coach are women, and so what you see is you'll see. I mean, obviously things are changing now, but let's go back 30, 40, 50 years. You're seeing women that used to stay home and maybe they raised their kids and they took care of the house. Cool. And then now they're saying, oh my gosh, my kids are older now, don't really need me as much. Who the heck am I? What do I want to bring to the world? And so they kind of go on this self-seeking adventure to say, maybe I want to have a career, maybe I want to start a business. Then you have the working moms that are saying, look, I've been raising my child and I've been working and I've been doing it all, right? Single parents, all these things. And then they're saying, okay, great. Then you got women, great, super successful. Let's say they're 45 to 55 years old, established in their career. I got women literally say, Ryan, I made a lot of money. Man, I did great. Ryan, when I go on dates, I don't need anybody to pay my bill. I don't need anybody to give me any gift. I got my own stuff, my own thing. That's not what I'm looking for. So then I say, well, what are you looking for? I'm just looking for some conversation. I'm just looking for, a little bit of adventure, a little bit of fun. And I say, well, okay, sounds like your life is good. What's the problem? I don't know. I just don't feel happy. Okay. And then you start unpacking that, right? And then it kind of comes into this intersection of, well, I want to have more impact on the world than I actually am. And again, that's where I came on my program where I said, because it's interesting, right? If you listen to the universe a lot, you will hear what the universe's problem is. And I always say, as an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur too. If you want to wrap a business, just listen to what problems are out there and see if you can maybe come up with a solution. That's called the business. And so you would find that on my corporate side, when I would deal with females, I'd just be talking to them and we're always talking about business and stuff. And then you'd say, hey, like, oh, you have kids, you're married, just, casual conversation. And it would always come back into this pain point of, yeah, I'm doing great here, but I just want to have more impact. And so a lot of times you literally hear them say, hey, I don't feel like I can have my cake and eat it too. And I'm like, no. This is a different world. I firmly believe that you can have your cake and eat it too, but it's going to take work, and it's going to take intention with tact and strategy.
Yeah. And hope and trust that you can make a difference and that what you need and want, whether it's making a difference or just leading a happier, more fulfilled life, whatever that is to you, that matters too.
Huge. And stay humble, keep hungry, is kind of a statement that I really love because it's, how do we keep that fire burning while being kind of gracious and humble enough to see what's going on around us? And this is where I like the term savage servant, where it's like, hey, you kind of alluded this where you said, like, don't give all of yourself out so that when it's time for you, you're completely depleted. Well, a savage servant is very good at saying, look, I understand what my values are. I don't waver on my values. And on the male side of things, as me as a dad, I can honestly say it's like, okay, great. If you take the masculinity, because we talk a lot about masculinity, femininity, right? And so for me, as a dad, I'm like, okay, well, Ryan, you got two young kids, which I've already voted myself as world's best dad. I'm very passionate about that. I have a 6 and 4-year-old. And so how do I go out into the world and be absolutely ferocious in my dreams and my goals? And then I come and then I'm like, okay, my daughter's putting toothpaste in my hair and drawing all over my face. And I have all this emotional attachment towards that. And so for me, that's a savage servant where I know what my fundamentals and values are. I don't waver on them. I don't sit on the fence, and I'm very specific on that. But that doesn't mean that I'm some G.I. Joe person where I'm like, no, I'm very in touch with my emotion. And I think that's where some of the unlock for people is they think that it's like this or. And I say, you can do and. I can go get my goals. I can go crush it. I can do all that. And I can also do that. Whereas I don't got to pick or. I can do and.
Well, back to your personal audit, looking at both the things that make you feel good and the things that make you feel bad, both exist. you have both. You can be the number one this and that, which you are in so many areas in my introduction, right? And that wasn't even a complete introduction, guys. He's a world changer for sure. And the dad who's fully committed to being with his family. You don't have to choose between them. And so let's talk about confidence, because it takes
Sure.
a lot of confidence to say, hey, I can be the world changer, and I could be the guy. And by the way, I have a couple guys watching right now on Instagram, right? I can be the guy. I can be a guy who's shows vulnerability, because if we don't, we end up eating. I mean, for people on this show listening, if you deplete yourself, you can end up filling the void with food or numbing yourself or what have you. So I know that you have some hacks to become more confident. Can you share those? Because I think those would be super. And Barb is saying Ryan is a very down-to-earth, nice person. Yes, you are. You could be down-to-earth and super smart and helpful. It could be all those.
You can be a beast. I mean, you can do all that. I think if we go to the hack, number one is, if I'm not confident. Now, again, right, if we kind of, again, my self-audit and my personal audit is, okay, when we study some of the greatest people in the world and we reverse engineer their story, oftentimes it starts with pain and suffering and trauma, right? Because to do really crazy things in the world, there has to be this motivation that's like, I mean, I have friends and we're all, entrepreneurs and all this, and we openly say we are all very weird people. We work crazy. We do things differently. It's just, we talk to people. It's like, they don't really relate to what's going on in my life right now. Like it's very isolating. But the first thing you got to do is you got to say, if I'm not confident, be cool with that. Just sit with that for a bit. I am not confident myself. Nothing wrong with that. But then the second thing is, let's call it today's lie for tomorrow's truth, which is called manifestation, in my opinion, right? Manifestation saying, hey, I want to be here at some point, but we know today I'm not there. So I call it today's lie for tomorrow's truth. So then again, write it down. What's today's lie that you're going to make into tomorrow's truth with strategy, which is, manifestation. For me, the way I learned, and this is why I talk in a lot of different stories and stuff, is that when I hear buzzwords a lot, for me, it just doesn't hit, because I'm like, is this thing just some woo-woo? Is this just some, next formula of the day? I like real actionable things. So if I want to become more confident, let's just first acknowledge that is the goal. Then let's acknowledge where I'm at, and let's acknowledge where I want to be. The number one thing you can do is you can start keeping micro promises to yourself. Okay. And what I mean by that is, the social currency that you brought up is like a 5-pillar system that I believe in, where people are, everybody says, okay, I want to make more money. Okay, well, that's monetary currency. So the social currency framework is this: monetary currency, vibe currency, family currency, mental health currency, physical health currency. And if we actually take a little pie, put it on a piece of paper, and say, let's be honest with ourselves, are we making daily deposits into all those different accounts? We know the answer. Maybe people are making 2 out of the 5 deposits. So let's go back to confidence. Well, if we want to be more confident and we say, well, hey, what's one small little promise I can keep to myself for the next week? That could be something like, I'm going to go for a 25-minute walk 5 days a week. And when you get to that end of the week, you're like, I did that 5 days last week. Check mark. Because now you've kept a promise to yourself, right? That is the sure way to get some self-confidence going, is just keeping small promises to yourself. And I'll leave it there because I know you have questions, but this is where you see a lot of people really break down on the self-confidence. They're kind of going outward, but I'm like, no, you're not keeping promises to yourself. And by promise to yourself, I don't mean your boss telling you that the project needs to be done next Tuesday. That's your boss's promise to themselves. That's not your promise to yourself. Your promise in that whole transaction with your boss could be something as simple as, well, my boss wants this done this way, but maybe I've been lacking at my job a little bit. So not only am I going to do that, I'm actually going to do things a little different and present it to my boss and see what their perspective is. Just take that little bar and just raise it just like a 0.5%. Make sense?
Makes sense. I want to say, Barb said, I am not confident, but I try different things. Barb, I think that is confidence. You have the
Yes.
confidence to try different things. It's like confidence, just like courage is not the absence of fear. It's
Oof.
feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Courage is not the absence of doubt. It's having the doubts and
Yep.
doing it anyway.
Well, confidence reversed is courage in small steps, right? And so societally, think about back in the day. I think about, like even when I grew up, a teacher would say, "Oh my gosh, you didn't get this mark. You failed." And like failure was this like big thing. It was almost like scrutinized. Like, you failed? Terrible. I promote fail as a dad, I promote failure in my house. If my son comes 6 years old, grade 2, say, "Hey boo, how's your day?" "Yeah, it's good." "What did you fail at today?" "What? What'd you fail at?" "Well, dad, I try to do this, I was supposed to do these letters and small case, uppercase. And it just didn't work out." I'm like, "So you tried?" Yeah, I tried, but it was terrible." "Come here, give dad a high five." "What? Dad, I'm confused, but I failed." No. I don't care about the wins today. We know the wins are in the bag. That's already in the soulful currency account. That's already deposited, already making interest on it as we speak. You, my friend, tried. The failure is going to lead to the wins. I know if you try and try and try, that at some point you're going to knock one out of the park. But if you stop, that's it. So failure to me means way more than winning. And even when like I think about life experiences, what brought me success, it wasn't the wins. It was always the fails. 100% of the time. Like if you want to literally massively change your life, go tomorrow and start failing.
It's like that Michael Jordan quote about how many shots he missed, how many tries he was entrusted to do the game-winning shot. I think it was like 38 times and failed. And he says, "I failed over and over and over and over again in my life. That is why I succeed." That we have to learn, like to your point with your son and everything. That's how we learn.
Yes. And I think we start to know when we're trying something or we're in this moment of like failure or like kind of, let's call it like stepping into the game, because a lot of people have opinions, but they're sitting up in the stands. You're not even in the game. But when you start getting in the game and you feel like you're going to puke and then back of your hair and your neck starts like getting all tingly, you, my friend, have entered into the growth zone. And the growth zone is a beautiful place you want to be, because if you want to get to the next level, well, there's some growth that needs to be, in there. And so failure, like there's no cheating. Like if you ask any successful person, even yourself, and you've talked to zillions of people, they're all going to tell you, "Dr. Nina, I didn't win the 100% of the time I got to where I am now. There's going to be some failure." Like I guarantee out of 100 people that are truly successful, they're going to say, I can't even tell you how many times I failed.
And it's so important that we don't take failing as feeling like a personal failure. Barb again. Thank you, Barb, for being part of our conversation. Barb, who is an
That's
educator,
awesome.
who is an educator and has written books on her therapy dog, Carmel. Barb just makes the point that children do not understand the purpose of failure. And my personal pet peeve, when my kids, like my youngest one is almost 16 now, but when they were growing up and doing sports, there was never like a winner and a loser. It was like everybody's a winner. Everyone gets a little gold star. And I hated it because kids need to learn that sometimes you lose, and you can lose without failing, and you could fail without being a failure or being a loser. That personalizes the experience.
Well, that's where I think if you like people that, okay, let's go to brand life. That's the thing I created right now. Why I say brand life is there's a certain element of a human being that they take everything in and they make it so personal. And I just think that's not the best way to do it. And the reason is that if you say I failed today, think about the verbiage we're telling ourselves. Okay, so I went and I ran the race and I failed today. Mom. Okay. Now that's different than saying I'm a failure. Right? So I went and tried something and I failed. That doesn't make you a failure. That just means that you went and tried something and you failed. Where the brand life comes in is people have to start thinking about the experiences of their life, so like not so attached to it. There's got to be a level of detachment, because, for example, if we say Chris Voss, and everybody listening, great former FBI hostage negotiator, great book, Never Split the Difference, get it. But he talks a lot about tactical empathy. And so tactical empathy says that, okay, if I want to connect with Dr. Nina, or I want to start a business, or I want to serve somebody, the last thing I need to do is make it about me. I have to be an amazing listener. If I know if I go into a sales transaction, if I'm talking more, I'm not getting the deal. Whoever talks the most loses, right? Ronald Reagan said it best. Hey, if you're explaining, you're losing, right? So to me, I say, okay, well, I'm going to ask a couple pointed, articulate questions, and then I'm going to shut my mouth. I'm just going to listen, because people get into their own narrative and their own story. It's like if your hair got messed up for a day, you walk out of the house, everybody's going to notice. There's tests shown you can wear the same outfit like 15 days in a row. Most people won't even notice that you're wearing the same outfit. This is something we're telling ourselves in our mind, in our subconscious. So brand life says, think about you as somewhat of a little bit of a brand, meaning something different. So somebody says, Ryan, you suck. I can't stand you. I don't take it personally. That's my brand. They're speaking to my brand. They're speaking to my message. It doesn't mean they're speaking directly to me. They don't really know me. Make sense?
Absolutely. But we personalize things that happen to us. And so part of confidence is not personalizing it, failing and embracing that instead of feeling like a failure, whether it's something you're doing at work or whether it's staying on your food and exercise plan or whatever. You're not a failure. You may have failed, but what can that teach you about you and about the rules maybe that you have created in your life? So important.
100%. Yeah. And I think just to add to that, it's when you study people who are doing really big things in life, they know how to separate things that are not literally personally involved with their professional value system, right? Because if we're going into our career, my career has nothing to do with who I am. Oh, like I want people to hear that, because people literally say, I am my career. No, you're not. What you do is not who you are, right? We had Grammy Award winning Montel Jordan. He sings, "This is how we do it," right? He turned into a pastor, was this mega superstar. And he says, Ryan, the biggest thing that changed my whole life was I started to realize what I do is not who I am. This is why maybe somebody has 5 careers in their lifetime. If the Dr. Nina show turns into the Nina show because you're not practicing anymore, well, great. That was a chapter in your life, but who's the actual nucleus of that whole scenario? You as a human. You're going to wear multiple hats, but those hats do not make you who you are. Like that hat might go in the garbage one day. That hat might get lost one day. You're still with yourself. And that's why, when you really optimize yourself as a human being, all aspects of your life, they get better. They just really do.
You're talking about self-acceptance, really.
Yes. And it's not even like, I just think, we talked about so now we have the debate between chutzpah and chutzpah. You're Jewish, you says chutzpah. I'm going with you because I'm not Jewish. You know how to pronounce that. But chutzpah, which what does it mean?
You tell us.
Extreme audacity and confidence. And so it's not just self-acceptance. It's like, let's have the audacity to just like be cool with ourselves. Like, you audacious person, Dr. Nina, how dare you just love yourself this much? I love if somebody comes out, like I say it to the moon all day long. I love myself. I do. I don't want my confidence to affect your insecurity. I love myself. That is like, what you think of me is none of my business. None of my business. What I think of me is my business. And so I need to like be cool with myself. And then everything else after that happens. For example, if I go on stage and I give a keynote and I've spoke to groups ranging from grade fivers to like company execs, 20 people to maybe 10,000 people on a stage. I literally open up my talk all the time. I never say, hi, my name's Ryan Holtz today. No, that's already a snooze fest. Terrible presenter. Like, never going to get their attention. I just simply say, I want 50% of you guys today to hate me by the end of my talk. And I want you other 50% to absolutely love me. But if you walk away and you don't remember me, I failed myself and I failed you today. Because anything worth, making a remark about is exactly that. It's remarkable. And not everybody's going to be cool with remarkable, but that's where you have to be cool with yourself. Because if you're truly doing your work, like if everybody loves you, like I always get skeptical when somebody says, I can't find a bad opinion about somebody. Like, oh my God, I love that person. I love that person. I love that person. I always ask myself, is that person playing really big in life? Because if you're playing big, I mean, we're talking going all in, you're going to piss some people off. Part of my language. You're going to upset some people. Some people are just going to look at you and be like, I just don't like you. I know if I meet you in person, I'm not going to like your cologne. Right? It's like Deion Sanders says, well, what are you wearing? What cologne are you wearing? I'm wearing confidence. Right? Dr. Nina, next time you walk in, somebody says, hey, you smell really good today. What are you wearing? You say, oh, I'm sorry. I'm just wearing confidence. Like I've done it before and they just stop in their tracks and they're like, what is happening here? Right? It's audacious. Right?
And I also want to make the point that confidence can be created, can be honed, we can learn to have confidence. If you don't have confidence, if you don't have audacity, if you don't have chutzpah, you can learn it. I mean,
yes.
if we were to get into a DeLorean time machine, if we a DeLorean car and go back in time, like Back to the Future, one of my favorite movies, true, and see an earlier me, you would not see someone who was wearing the scent of confidence.
Yes.
You can absolutely evolve. And that's why I want everyone to know that where you are now is just where you are now. That's what Ryan is saying. Like, you can change, you can learn, you can develop, you can grow, you can evolve. Such an important thing to remember.
Well, this is where in that process, the other two words that come up huge are imposter syndrome. Because now you're somebody saying, well, I wasn't necessarily confident, and now I'm doing all these different things and I'm starting to feel this way. Well, that negative self-critic starts coming out saying, whoa, who are you to make this change? Who are you to start doing things that you never thought you could do before? And that's where that imposter syndrome comes in. It's like, I always say, like, not religious or anything or whatever you believe in, but I always say, if we're walking this earth, it's undeniable that we are all, if I look at Dr. Nina, you're human, if you get cut, you'll bleed. And so I think we put a lot of unearned onus into opinions of others because they're just like us. We're all human beings. And so, that's why it's like people say, oh, you're extremely confident, like Barb, she'll say, hey, down to earth, Dr. Barb. She'll say, Ryan's so down to earth. Because people are always surprised when you meet somebody that's really confident, you're doing well, but you're down to earth. And it's like, well, why shouldn't I be down to earth? I'm a humble, savage servant. I mean, I don't mess with Mother Nature. I don't mess with life. I'm extremely happy to be here with all of you. And so whether I walk by somebody who's homeless on the street or I see something happen, it really touches me. And I just will never lose that emotional side of who I am. And I think that goes a long way, especially in leadership.
Yeah, I was holding up my cup because it says perfectly imperfect.
Oh, yeah.
We're all perfect. We're all perfectly imperfect. And instead of hiding the imperfections, we have to embrace them because it's what is true and real and vulnerable about us that makes us likable. Not that we put all our eggs in the basket of what people think of us, but actually that is the thing that makes people feel close, when shared vulnerability.
Well, listen, I'm married. I married my wife because it's messy. We sat down on our first couple dates and it was like, we just started being who we are. And I know, like, I love conversation with somebody. When somebody starts like, always telling me about like their best foot forward, like their life is great and all that, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, okay, so another 2 minutes left in this time slot. But when somebody starts telling me the messiness, the real thing, ooh, I'm like, oh, this is a good conversation. And I know, because I'll literally leave feeling more attached to the person. I'm like, I want to talk to that person again because they gave me complete real. They gave me the realness. When you give somebody real, you know what it ignites, number one, without the other person who's receiving the real? This is why I like the real. Trust. Because you're automatically signaling to the other person you're communicating with, I'm trusting you to be authentic and show a part of myself to you. Once you build trust with somebody, guess what happens next? Authority. Oh my gosh. I want to hear what Dr. Nina has to say because she says, I've had eating problems in my past. I'm not just writing books and talking about this. I've been where the people I'm serving are. There's a level of credibility that is automatically baked into that. Whereas if somebody says, I wrote a book on binge eating, never been through that before. I mean, I know you went to school, don't punish me for saying this, but I know you read books on the experience, but I don't know if I'm going to, like, if Dr. Nina shows up and then Dr. ABC shows up and Dr. ABC says, I've personally never been through this struggle, but I've learned about it. Okay, cool. I'll give you respect. But then Dr. Nina shows up and says, hey, I've personally been through this struggle. I got to go to Dr. Nina. I just do. There's a level of credibility that happens there.
Yeah, it's like a coach coaching basketball that's never played basketball, but they've learned all about it.
You'll get sports people mad with that because yes, and it's so true because there's coaches literally that they coached what they couldn't do, like never played the sport, and hey, managed to be the most amazing coach. So I'm not saying that that doesn't hold merit, but yeah, I think for me, and everybody's different, but for me, I'm like, if somebody's been through something, there's just a level of edge they got. I just feel that.
And it's also our imperfections are what makes us interesting. Like we've never said, oh, so-and-so, you've got to meet them. They're so perfect.
Yes. And, I mean, I want to be very real too, is that I remember growing up, especially when my mom passed away, very humble beginnings, grew up basically in poverty. And so my biggest thing I wanted was, I want to make money. That's the first thing. Like money was everything for me, the lifeline. I mean, my biggest thing about people say, Ryan, why did you become an entrepreneur? I became an entrepreneur out of pure survival because I thought, oh my gosh, right? I talk about this on my podcast all the time. I taught myself how to cut my own hair at 13 years old. I like my hair cut once a week. I bought these clippers. It was like $100. And I said, okay. And it was a lot of money for me. But I said, look, if I want my hair cut for once a week, because again, just because I was broke, I didn't want to show up to society looking broke, right? And so my mom always said, listen, just because you're a certain way does not mean you have to carry yourself that way. And so again, that's a little bit of strategy there. But I said, look, how much will my haircut cost? Okay, let's just say it's going to cost $20 a week. Okay, so whatever you're going to cut your hair once a week, you're going to save $80 a month, right? 12 months in a year, that's $1,000 a year. If you're 13, you save all that money. By the time you're 18, you'll have $5,000. So by the time I was 18, I had $5,000. What did I do? I went and bought this piece of crap apartment, condo, need some paint, need some flooring, renovated that thing, put it back on the market, made 35 grand. 35 grand at 18 years old. Oh my, I thought it was 3.5 million. Maybe with inflation, now it's billion, but we won't get into that talk because we don't want to go there. But, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy money. And then all of a sudden, you go get a job and I'm like, okay, so great, and I played football and did all this stuff, and I thought, okay, great. But then it's like, okay, so you want to get a job, you go get a job. I had this job and then I worked my butt off for a year and boss comes in all happy at the end of the year to give me my annual review, says, Ryan, you're going to get a $2,000 raise. I said, oh my gosh, this is terrible. If I want to be here by here, I'm not going to get to where I want to go by the time I'm 85 years old. So I said, nope, got to be an entrepreneur. You got to take some of that control. Because I said, if I want to design the life the way I want it, this is big for me. And so I'm going to give another example. I didn't have a dad. So some people that don't have a dad, especially I feel as a man growing up, playing football, all these sports, my chairs were always empty when it came to awards. Nobody to throw the ball with me, none of that. So I said, okay, this is going to be a big part of your life, not having a dad. So I said, I want to be the world's best dad. And so I said, I don't want to be the dad that's not there and misses everything. So I said, how do I design my life that if I'm blessed to have my first child, I can be there for everything? Well, entrepreneurship was that for me, because I said I get to make my own calendar and schedule. So these things were thought about years ago, but they were tactful and strategic along the way. And so when I talk to people, I tell them, look, I'm not reading books and giving advice. I walked my own thesis. I walked the talk, and there's a level of credibility that comes with that.
Huge credibility. Ryan, I cannot believe how fast this show went.
Yes.
That we could just keep talking. Please, you are the definition of chutzpah. I love it. You've given us so much to think about, so much food for thought. Please tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, so if anybody would like, they can check out my podcast. It's called the Ryan Holtz Show Podcast. We've had everybody from Kevin O'Leary, Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, all the way to Ricky Lake, 90s talk show authors, you name it. It's there. There's 206 episodes of love. It's free. You get to unpack it. Visit ryanholtz.ca. And, if your viewers want to have a chat in terms of my coaching, we offer 10-minute free calls. Literally, you can pick my brain, which I hate that saying, but I like to give back as much as I can into the world. And that's it. I'm very humbled and thankful to be here, Dr. Nina.
Well, thank you so much for being here on the Dr. Nina Show. I am here every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific here on LA Talk Radio, or you can listen later on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you get your podcasts, pretty much anywhere. And that is our show for today. Thank you again for being such an amazing guest. I appreciate you. Mwah.
My pleasure, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to the Dr. Nina Show with Dr. Nina Savelle Rocklin, only on LA Talk Radio.